There was this great editorial by Neil Oliver of Scotland the other day where he says, look at the language, build back better. That exact slogan, exact words being used by Joe Biden, Justin Trudeau, Boris Johnson. Like, how did that just happen? Did they have a call about it? Do they share marketing strategies or how did that phrase, or the Great Reset, which, we know where that comes from. That's the World Economic Forum. How did these ideas, where do they come from? And I don't think you have to be in a mad fever to say there is some sort of communication and coordination that we are not allowed to observe. Over the last 2 years, I think so much of governing has been done by order rather than through laws debated, vetted, public consultations, transcripts of hearings. Like, that's how it's normally done in a Congress or a parliament. Parliaments and Congresses, and the British Parliament in particular, hasn't debated or voted on any of these things. They've just been emergency orders issued by bureaucrats that we never even heard of until 18 months ago. And I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to ask the question, how did that pattern, like to notice the patterns and say, how did that happen? And you would think that journalists, just out of basic curiosity, would ask that, but they seem to be the most ardent defenders of these new, ideologies, these global memes around the world.
Yeah, that raises yet another question. Why is that the case as well? And I agree with you that the facts on the table raise significant questions. What is the World Economic Forum? What is the intention of the Great Reset? Who is involved? Who knew what and when, to kind of paraphrase the infamous Watergate trials? Because somebody knew something. Did your banker, did the officials of Goldman Sachs who show up to these Davos things, did they know when they signed you a 30-year mortgage that they were going to engage in a Great Reset that looks like it's going to crash currencies and cause rampant inflation as part of the program? Did they know this? Did they know that, Klaus Schwab put out a video with the World Economic Forum in 2016 that says by 2030, you will own nothing and you will be happy? But they were selling you a house. Who knew what and when? Why did so many CEOs suddenly resign in 2019? Why is there another wave of CEOs that have been resigning over the past few months in so many large major corporations? There are sufficient facts on the table now to start asking extraordinarily hard questions. And one of them ties back exactly like you said to what Neil Oliver said, the phrasing, build back better, coming out of so many mouths all at once, just like the policy for the response to the hyper-real pandemic was all in lockstep and the same from all corners. We don't just have that. They're talking about a Great Reset. They're talking about a narrow window of opportunity in which to do this Great Reset, which that language comes straight out of Klaus Schwab's book, COVID-19, The Great Reset, which he published very rapidly last year after the pandemic, or the year before last, after the pandemic started. I think it was out by summer of 2020. And so we should be asking these questions. Who's involved? What did they know? What is the role, for example, a phrase that hasn't been used here, but what is the role of these new ESG investment metrics that score corporations and institutions along the lines of environmental, social, and governance scores that are decided by who? These exact same kind of elite technocrats who are making these decisions behind closed doors. We already have evidence that we have with the social media big tech companies that we have the corporate world in the United States getting around the Constitution, doing the bidding of the Democrats and the government, where they, through censoring people, where the government doesn't have the ability to do that, and vice versa. So that you can have this very weird, what Klaus Schwab refers to as a public-private partnership between public entities like federal governments and private entities like gigantic corporations who all seem to be on the same page, who all happen to attend the same big club meeting in Davos on the regular and have a series of commitments that they have to make in order to continue being part of that club. These questions need to be brought to the fore at this point, and it's no longer going to be, after the past 24 months or so, it's no longer sufficient to dismiss these questions by saying that sounds conspiratorial, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. People need to get answers to these questions.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.